Captain Garrett on the Swords and Starships channel of the channel Swords and Starships. Shall we do, I should do a proper captain's introduction. My name is Captain Garrett of the YouTube channel Swords and Starships. United Commonwealth of Stars. Yes. Hi, how are you? Welcome. We have a lot to talk about. The sound of freedom is the sound of humiliation for one Disney Lucasfilm. Hold on. Kill the music. Kill it. I need a producer. Did I turn down the mic instead of the music? I have. Let me try that again. Welcome to the Captain's Cast. I am your captain of the Captain Garrett of the YouTube channel Swords and Starships, also on Rumble. And we are going to talk about the sound of freedom and the sound of Disney's humiliation. Before we get started, can I just say coffee, in the words of Captain Catherine Janeway, is the finest organic suspension ever known to man. That's coffee brand coffee, actually, if you can believe it. And I am not going to shill it. Silverback, ahoy! Welcome aboard, Silverback. And it's not just the sound of freedom, sort of both literally and just the title. It's not just the sound of freedom that's humiliating Disney. It is really a couple of bombs. They got two stinkers in the theater right now. Also, your captain watched the third episode of Secret Invasion. Why? Because I like pain. That's why. I got to tell you, we've been watching a lot of the deconstruction of the hero, the kind of sad, old, pathetic loser character, and we've been watching the futures of all of our characters like Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Indiana Jones, Captain Jean-Luc Picard. We've been watching all these characters, and Colonel Jack O'Neill is on. He's on deck. If you don't think they're going to destroy that character, you just keep an eye out. Keep a sharp eye out, Stargate fandom. They'll come for him too. And Nick Fury is the latest victim. Tom is in the chat. Ahoy, Tom. So we're going to talk about Secret Invasion. But as I was saying, before I so rudely interrupted myself, Secret Invasion not only is deconstructing the future of Nick Fury, they found a way in this episode to actually retcon and deconstruct his entire life. So he's been a loser his entire life. It's quite ironic when you think about it. They were bitching about mediocre white men in the last episode being who they're always competing with. Well, it turns out that Nick Fury is also a mediocre man. We'll get into that. I have to admit, I was impressed. I was like, wow, that's really taking it to a new level. It was one line of dialogue. It was brilliant. It was brilliant in its horrific, scandalous awfulness. And the great diversity, equity, and inclusion officer Culling has begun. I'll have that headline for you. And, maybe we'll throw a couple other things in the hopper. I've been trying to get the Thursday live stream going again, so consider this the warning shot. The Thursday live stream is back on the menu, boys. Shall we talk about maybe one of the best headlines I've seen in quite some time? This from Bounding Into Comics. The Sound of Freedom defeats Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at the box office on none other than Independence Day. Salute to America. Happy birthday, America. Happy birthday month. It's American Pride Month. Did you know that? And on the, now this is rather rich as well. Did you know that Disney originally had the rights to distribute this movie. They had the script and they shelved it. And the filmmakers worked really hard to get those rights back. And now, now with those rights wrested back from Disney, they've made this movie and have gone on to use it to embarrass and humiliate Kathleen Kennedy's disastrous Dial of Destiny. The recently released Sound of Freedom film starring Jim Caviezel defeated Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Company's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at the box office on Independence Day. As reported by The Numbers, the Angel Studios distributed Sound of Freedom was the top film at the box office on July 4th, the day that the film released. It grossed $14.2 million while in 2,634 theaters. So that's an average of $5,400 per theater. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, on the other hand, came in second with a daily gross of $11.6 million while being in 4,600 theaters. Can you believe this, folks? My dear sailors and starnauts, if you're just joining us, please do hit like and subscribe. Help this live stream reach a wide audience because we have got. This is incredible. Dial of Destiny only played in 4,600 theaters while Sound of Freedom played in almost a little over half as many. But 4,600 theaters for Indiana Jones, 2,600 theaters for Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom got $5,400 per theater. Dial of Destiny only got $2,500 per theater. It's like exactly reversed. So half of the film gross per theater. This is a movie, Indiana Jones, that has the full weight and might and limitless fortune of Disney behind it. All the special effects budget you could want, all the CGI you could ever ask for, a legacy character. You know, you would think that just the sheer, you know, baseline mediocre level of film goer would be enough for Dial of Destiny to crush it. And yet it's not. And you know something? This restores my faith in humanity. This makes me think that I am right to give a little bit of forgiveness to our blue pill friends, because our normie friends, they're coming around. If nothing else, they're just like, yeah, there's better things to do on a Saturday. Rounding out the top five were Elemental, which grossed $2.7 million. We'll talk about that. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, 2.6. Transformers Rise of the Beasts grossed 1.6. I have to say, Transformers Rise of the Beasts, the more I think about it, I gave it an exact 5, and I stand by that. 5 bars out of 10 on the epaulets. That movie was a perfect mediocre. It was a perfectly average film in every way, was Transformers Rise of the Beasts. The box office haul for Sound of Freedom comes after Angel Studios co-founder Jeffrey Harmon indicated numerous potential moviegoers were actually being turned away from theaters because showings were sold out. He tweeted yesterday night, Sound of Freedom and Angel Studios are in full-on theatrical dogfight this week for additional showtimes in larger auditoriums against the biggest studios in the world. We are having sellouts nationwide, but so many are being turned away because there are no seats left. Harmon added, this was exactly the strategy, but it's a miracle it's actually working. The only way for a startup studio to enter theatrical on the 4th of July is by brute force. Our team has voluntarily put in calculable hours because they can sense this can rescue many children. It's an honor to get a small part of such a significant movement. And I have heard Chris Gore, hat tip Film Threat. Check out Film Threat if you want awesome, solid, and wide-ranging film reviews. Chris Gore said this movie is fantastic, and I trust him implicitly. And I'm like, you know what? Because look, I love a good America, freedom, save the children kind of movie, but I also want it to be good. You know, I don't want it to just be red meat for, you know, shall we say, my worldview. I actually would like it to be a really awesome thriller. So to hear him say that is very encouraging. And I'm actually really excited to see this movie. Already got my tickets for Saturday. But I want you to understand the sheer work ethic of these filmmakers, right? Because this is what they did. They basically, because this is part movement, right? They actually want to raise awareness on this issue of child trafficking. And so what they did is they set up a system where you can buy a ticket as a donation. You can donate a ticket, and then a moviegoer who wants to see the movie, can't afford it, maybe it's too expensive, they can go and claim a free ticket. So essentially they're getting people that are interested in this film to effectively buy tickets for other film goers. Now, contrast that with the marketing strategy of Dial of Destiny. You're gonna love this. You know what Dial of Destiny's strategy was? Giving away free Indiana Jones tickets with Applebee's combos. I shit you not. They are trying to Kathleen over there at Lucasfilm, she's trying to inflate their numbers with free tickets with Applebee's dinners. I can't even. Can you imagine the desperation of this? When you think of, I'll never let you forget it, Disney. You know what you did. Everybody goes to Applebee's for free movie tickets, don't you know? Oh my God. So congratulations to Jeffrey Harmon. Get me the IMDb on this so I can give proper attribution where it is due. Silverback says, do not forget the out-of-balance marketing budget between Dial of Death today and Sound of Freedom. Yes, exactly. This is David and Goliath. And they are crushing it. Now, here's why this is interesting, right? Because I guarantee you, like 48 hours ago, every major media website would have predicted, it's not going to go anywhere. This is just some, sad, wacky Mel Gibson conservative piece. It's never going to happen. It could never defeat Dial of Destiny. Why? It's like the Joker, the Dark. Wind back the clock, right? It's like now it's a totally different story. So let's check out the trailer. Yeah, Silverback says, wow, free Applebee's with Indy 5 tickets. You can now have 2 loads of crap in one evening. Oh, come on, Silverback. You don't like Applebee's? Oh, come on. Not exactly. So the director is Alejandro Monteverde. So I'm guessing this is the owner. I believe Jeffrey Harmon is the owner of Angel Studios. So nice work. Nice work. Let's check out the trailer, shall we? Now, I'm hoping that there's not that they're going to be friendly from a copyright perspective, since this is a grassroots movie, and it's for the purpose of honest critique and commentary. But there is music in it, and the music is always what gets the claim, so we'll see.
International crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade. Because you can sell a bag of cocaine one time to a child 5 to 10 times a day.
Jesus. You're going to need to prepare for this one, I think. This is going to be like watching a war film. I have no doubt.
God's children are not for sale.
How long you been doing this?
12 years now.
By the way, that line, sorry for pausing it, it's for copyright reasons. That line, God's children are not for sale, is that not one of the most killer frickin' lines you've ever heard? I have comments about this, but I will let the trailer run.
How many pedophiles you got?
288.
How many kids you found?
por rescatar niños, ¿verdad? Puedes ayudarme a encontrar a mi hermana.
Te lo prometo.
For Homeland Security, you know we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
Which means she'll disappear for good. Imagine walking into a room right now, seeing an empty bed. What we do?
You quit your job, and you go and rescue those kids.
So at this moment, she could be a block down the road, or she could be in Moscow, Bangkok, LA. She's a major operator.
It's all rebel territory. No one goes in.
Star Fury, welcome to the chat. Ahoy, welcome aboard. Silverback says, yeah, you're right. Applebee's can be great, but you have to be right in the right state of mind or be more accurate hungover. Or to be more accurate hungover. Yes, absolutely. So yes, if you're just joining us, we're watching the Sound of Freedom trailer. Sound of Freedom having just humiliated Disney at the box office, having beaten the Dial of Destiny on none other than America's birthday, Independence Day. So hopefully the music in the trailer doesn't get me claimed here, but I wanted to play the trailer.
Not the army, not the police, not us.
What if this was your daughter?
There's no Marine unit coming.
You're on your own. This job tears you to pieces. And this is my one chance. But those...
I have to wonder why there aren't more movies like this. Now, this is based on a true story, but as I watch this, I think, you know, this used to be a standard character archetype. A man going out into the world to kill bad guys doing terrible things to people, and it was the kind of movie that we all were united behind. All of us. Nobody would have questioned a film like this years ago. Fictional or not.
Pieces back together.
When God tells you what to do, you cannot hesitate.
You're damn right.
An estimated 2 million children are trafficked every year, and we can help them. Sound of Freedom is...
So there's a lot of music in that, so I got to be careful with it. But there you have it, Sound of Freedom. Now, you know, I only heard about this recently, and it's very much a word-of-mouth film right now, and I think it's about to do some incredible numbers. And when I was hearing about it, I was actually in the theater last weekend to see Dial of Destiny, and I had this thought. And you ever have a thought where it just for just a second or two, like all the illusion of reality drops away, and you suddenly realize how insane everything is? And I just thought, I can't believe I have this thought, but I can already see the leftist weirdo articles criticizing this movie coming out. Now, why is that? How do I know that the wokies aren't going to like this movie? On paper, there's nothing to dispute here. It's like this is a true story about a man who actually has been fighting child trafficking, about a problem that is not just a problem, it is a worldwide epidemic. In theory, what could possibly be more uniting to humanity? But how is it? How is it that in the back of my mind, I just know they're going to be upset about this? And that was, and the funny thing was, at first I didn't question that thought. I just had that thought because I always have that thought. Whenever there's a movie that's going to piss the wokies off, I'm like, oh, that's going to piss them off, all right. But then I'm like, no, wait a minute. How do I know that? I don't know that. It's not that. Surely I am being biased and bigoted. Do you know what I mean? I give you Jezebel. Jezebel.com. Try this. Now, how did I know, my dear sailors and starnuts? Now, how did I know? The Sound of Freedom is an anti-child trafficking fantasy fit for QAnon. Star Jim Caviezel, who plays real-life anti-trafficking activist Tim Ballard, has been talking about adrenochrome and organ harvesting on his press tour by Rich Juzwiak. Oh, just ran to the presses on Monday. Just had to make sure he got this in, did he? Never trust a pedophile. Doesn't quite have the ring of I'll be back or yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. But it suffices as a one-liner in Alejandro Monteverde's child trafficking action flick Sound of Freedom, out now. It's said by Jim Caviezel, playing real-life anti-trafficking activist Tim Ballard, in the same sandpaper whisper that actors often don to play Batman, with some Liam Neeson and Taken sprinkled in for flavor. They hate both of those characters too, by the way. The role actually gives Caviezel the opportunity to spout several extremely self-serious one-liners, like when he explains that he's in the line of work that he is because God's children are not for sale, or when he tearfully recites over 2 million children a year are being sucked into the deepest recesses of hell. At last, QAnon's camp appeal gets the cinematic exploration it demands. Mr. Juzwiak, this is your first thought. This is your first thought when you see a film about a real-life man who's doing more than you ever will to save the lives of children. This is your first thought. To run to your computer. At last, QAnon's camp appeal gets the cinematic exploration it demands. This is not a QAnon biopic, you idiot. Like, what? What is wrong with these weirdos, these wackos? They're whacked out people. They're sick. This is why I say wokeness. Wokeness is a movement that is just evil. It just is, because only such an evil mind virus could blind you to what's right in front of you. This should be uniting all of us. Now, look, is it possible the film takes some liberties? Is it possible we're indulging in just a little bit of revenge fantasy? Yes, who cares? Maybe we need some once in a while. A few qualifications up front. This is my favorite part. This is where he tries to let himself off the hook for just having spent a paragraph telling on himself. A few qualifications up front. The exploitation of children is a real problem that no one besides the exploiters wants. Ballard has testified at a House Foreign Affairs subcommittee and shared footage of the sting operation portrayed in The Sound of Freedom with the media. Some of that footage also plays during the final moments of the movie. He was appointed to the Public-Private Partnership Advisory Council to End Human Trafficking by, gross, Donald Trump, in 2019. The council was terminated in 2020. Now, that is curious timing. Is that... Now, listen. Your captain. I'm no fan of QAnon. I really have no interest in any of that stuff. Pizzagate, whatever. I know there's people who believe that stuff. I consider, the problem is the word conspiracy, the phrase conspiracy theory is being misapplied in our current climate. But just the oldest definition of conspiracy theory, I'm talking about like just picture just the moon landing was fake, right? Something like that, which I know a lot of people believe. It wasn't. But the moon landing is fake. We'll just take that, right? It's a theory that is based on a reading of facts which can be interpreted in multiple ways. Now, making the decision that something is true without sufficient evidence, I believe, is opening yourself up to a mind virus. So, in theory, I don't subscribe to conspiracy theories any more than I subscribe to wokeness. That being said, I have to admit, I am persuadable when I hear enough evidence that something is going on. And I certainly am open to evidence, which is something that our woke friends are not. But I do find it just a little curious that Orange Man Bad had appointed the Public-Private Partnership Advisory Council to End Human Trafficking, and it was terminated a year later by Sleepy Joe. That is strange timing. Make of that what you will. dear viewer. Our friend here goes on. However, the legitimacy of Ballard's organization, these people love legitimacy, don't they? Operation Underground Railroad, its claims of heroic rescues of trafficking victims, and its methodology have been questioned and investigated by journalists. The organization has distanced itself from conspiracy theory groups who have chosen to latch onto child exploitation and human trafficking as a vehicle to deceptively bolster their causes, i.e. QAnon. Ew, gross! That said, Ballard told the New York Times in 2020 that some of these theories have allowed people to open their eyes, and therefore, now it's our job to flood the space with real information so the facts can be shared. He tweeted that year, with or without Wayfair, child trafficking is real and happening, and in the attached video, claimed that children are sold that way, in reference to the Wayfair conspiracy theory, positing the furniture company's catalog was a front for selling children who shared the names of its furniture. Now, this is what I mean when I say, so the theory goes that Wayfair furniture is code for, like, child trafficking. That's a wild one, and I have to admit, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I am not aware of this film being about the Wayfair catalog. But notice how this idiot is determined to go and find the thing that will allow him to indict this film. Now, if this film were about a brave CIA agent putting parents in jail for misgendering their transgender children, he would be stunning and brave. And this would be the film everyone should see and should be shown to all people by force. And really, how distant can Ballard, and by extension his organization, be from QAnon when the guy who's playing him, with whom he's been promoting Sound of Freedom, has been using the press opportunity to peddle QAnon theories about adrenochrome and organ harvesting? Sound of Freedom was finished back in 2018, about 2 years after Pizzagate put QAnon into the public eye, but was shelved by Disney at the time, which, by the way, is that not rich? Disney had this film and wouldn't make it, and now they're choking on it. Now it's getting an indie release as a conservative thriller. Yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing. The only people in the world who are allowed to have causes are woke leftist wackos. They're the only people that are ever entitled to be behind a cause, to have any moral beliefs, to have anything they stand up for. Anyone else, well, it's a conservative thriller. This is a film, sir. This is a film, sir, about saving children from child sex slavery. You foaming at the mouth wacko. Conservative has nothing to do with this movie. These people are sick. I can't even believe it. Oh, here comes the best part. In an interview with Steve Bannon, ooh, gross, from earlier this month, Caviezel went on at length about the whole adrenochrome empire as driving demand for trafficking. Though Caviezel didn't direct Freedom, he's treating it as a passion project. Ooh, Caviezel's gross, appearing in its trailer to speak directly to the camera about its importance. The movie also concludes with a similar speech from Caviezel after its credits run, in which he proclaims, "I think we can make Sound of Freedom the Uncle Tom's Cabin of 21st century slavery." He directs people to a QR code on screen, urging them to donate to the movie's Pay It Forward program to provide tickets for people who are interested in seeing it but cannot afford it. The movie has received endorsements from Elon Musk and Ivanka Trump. Ew, gross! It probably will come as no surprise that among Ballard's promotional rhetoric has been anti-trans sentiment. And there it is! Oh my God! Like clockwork! You can set your watch by these wackos, can't you? It's unbelievable. Yeah, look at the, for a guy who hates conspiracy theories, look at the web he has woven here. So he's saying, film about ending child trafficking. Sorry, couldn't reach the cough button. Film about child trafficking has Jim Caviezel in it. Now, follow me here. Follow me. Jim Caviezel is liked by conservatives. Conservatives also like Donald Trump. Donald Trump appointed the panel in which this film's filmmaker is attached. the original guy it's based on. And he has been endorsed by Elon Musk and Ivanka Trump, and they're ew and gross. Therefore, QAnon. This guy has a web. He's got like thumbtacks and yarn. He's got the whole thing going. He's the conspiracy theorist, this guy. Look, dude, so what, man? It's incredible. This guy would rather side against Ivanka Trump, who's pretty liberal, frankly, and Elon Musk, also a liberal, thank you. Elon Musk and Ivanka Trump, both liberals. He would rather side against them than be in favor of this movie raising awareness about child trafficking. But looky here, he can't wait to talk about anti-trans sentiment. You know, where there's smoke, there's fire. You know, maybe this has something to do with why it bothers him to side against child traffickers. I'm just saying. Oh, so he points out this. He claimed to the Daily Signal that trans ideology, quote, foisted on children, is going to lead to, quote, what the pedophiles have been asking for. If you can consent to that, guess what? What's more fluid than gender? Age. He has also blamed trafficking on Biden's border policy. And you don't, sir? Like, what? Are you disputing any of these claims? I suspect that you are not. So there you have it. As the sun rises and sets, if there is a movie about a moral man saving children from slavery, the woke will be pissed about it. What does that tell you about their state of mind? If there has ever been a reason for me to renew my absolute sharp criticism of them on this channel, that is all I needed. Jezebel, ladies and gentlemen. Starfury said, I heard a moral movie beat the pile of tripe that was the bowel of dysentery. Yes, and I like your title there. And you are correct, Starfury. You are correct. Shall I pull that? Let's see. I think I had... Yeah. There it is. There's the headline for Bounding into Comics. Sound of Freedom defeats Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at the box office on Independence Day. $14 million to Disney's 11.6. Ouch! You know what's funny about this, too, is if Sound of Freedom had been just a total failure, crickets, nobody really went to see it, they would have been happy if they mentioned it at all. They would have said, well, that just proved that QAnon conspiracy movies are nobody's interested in that. So give me more Phoebe Waller-Forehead, please. Try this headline from Cosmic Book News. Woke Disney Pixar Elemental bombs at the box office. Non-binary racism, xenophobia themes. Can you just... What a pile of garbage. What a pile of garbage. Families chose to avoid Elemental, which features Pixar's first non-binary character. That's not a thing. That doesn't exist. As the movie only opened to $29 million, the flick joins last year's Lightyear, which also bombed, as well as Disney's Secret Gay Strange World animated movie. I don't agree that it's secret. So that one bombed, and then I've got too many headlines. The Flash. The Flash becomes the worst box office flop in superhero movie history. After 3 weeks in theaters, Warner Brothers' The Flash has become the worst box office flop in superhero movie history. Ezra Miller's multiversal epic. Can we please have an end to multiverses, please? Oh my God. Hopefully this will end this trend. It's finally in theaters, following years of production troubles, controversies, and even a delay or two, and despite being called the kind of movie we need now. What? Where Supergirl gets stabbed 50 times by Zod? That's the kind of, shot. We get to listen to Michael Keaton's Batman die like twice? This is the kind of movie we need, huh? 2 Ezra Millers? Jesus. Say one thing for Dial of Destiny, but at least there was only one Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Although she was enough, trust me. This film has floundered financially, suffering the worst box office drop returns from first to second week in DC history, 72.5%. Given The Flash's paltry box office numbers, the Andy Muschietti, is it Muschietti? Yeah, it's Muschietti. The Andy Muschietti-directed DC film has earned the title of the biggest box office flop in superhero movie history because of The Flash's reported $220 million budget, $150 million promotional budget. The movie is likely set to lose over $200 million for Warner Brothers, which could be the biggest financial loss suffered by a studio because of a superhero film. In the words of Gary Oldman's rendition of Winston Churchill in Darkest Hour, when will the lesson be learned? When will the lesson be learned? Have you had enough pain? these idiotic, these idea-bereft writers with their massive, bloated diversity, equity, and inclusion diversity quotas, have they learned their lesson? Well, that's asking a lot, I guess. But that's okay, because, you know, we will just continue, that is, customers, fans, we will continue inflicting defeat after defeat after defeat on these pathetic writers, these lazy directors, these snotty, arrogant actors that berate their fans. They run to social media. These lying, absolute, frankly deranged access media shills out there frickin' attacking a film that is trying to do something about child trafficking. We will continue inflicting defeat and embarrassment and humiliation upon them. So keep it up. Keep releasing these movies. Keep getting old Dylan over there to endorse your beer, because we'll inflict another defeat on you. So that's what's happening. So we have Indiana Jones bomb, The Flash bomb, Elemental bomb, Sound of Freedom dominating. Now isn't that curious? I thought we lived in an era where nobody wants to go to movies anymore. Nobody wants to. EB says permission to come aboard. EB, permission granted, sir. Welcome aboard to the Captain's Cast. And if you're just lurking, just joining, catching it on the restream, I do thank you. Please do throw a like or subscribe to your humble captain. I am but your humble servant. Oliver is in the chat. Modern writing is absolutely garbage. It is. It is. And, you know, I think they mistook goodwill and momentum for people being idiots. You know, I've said this before. The American media, and I guess by extension, the Western civilization's, you know, primary media, they think we're idiots. They think we are stupid people. They think, oh, what movie's in theaters? It's Indiana Jones. Okay, I like that movie. I'm going to go see it. That's not my Indiana Jones, but they say he is, so I'll keep watching. Where's my Bud Light? That they think we're stupid. And what's funny is, you know, the average, this is why I love YouTube so much. I love Gary at Nerdrotic. I love The Critical Drinker. I love Chris Gore. You know why? Because they're real people and they have actual opinions. You know, this idiot over at Jezebel here talking about, you know, this is a QAnon conspiracy movie. It's like this guy thinks he's better than everyone. That he's writing and he thinks he's better than than what he considers consumers. And they're learning a painful lesson. And we're having to teach them. We're having to teach them methodically, slowly. And this, I've said this before, you know, I have family members. Most of my family members generally share roughly the Overton window of my political views. But actually, I vary pretty widely with everyone I know in my life on a lot of different opinions and things. So I am, if nothing else, a free thinker. And I have a lot of family members who, they're no fans of the woke mind virus, the trans insanity, but they're normies, and they're not up on all this stuff. And so when I was talking about Bud Light, I definitely heard a lot of people who, by and large, agree that Dylan's a creep and, screw that guy. But they're like, but who cares? It's just a beer. It's just a beer. What's the big deal? Like, it's just Disney. Who cares? Like, I don't like him. I'm not going to go see him. Who cares if they make a woke movie? And, I said, this is the mistake that you're making. Because you think it's not a big deal that Bud Light, for example, has lost 30%, I think more than that now, of its sales. Think about that. Think about it. A multi-billion-dollar company lost a third of their sales. That is enough to end any small business. Any small business that loses a third of its sales is dead. A business that huge has lost billions. It's catastrophic what has happened to Bud Light. Why should we care? We should care because money, dollars, people choosing what to spend their hard-earned money on is the last domain of free speech. It's all they've left us. These lying media shills like this Jezebel writer, Mr. Rich Jazwiak, all of these cable news networks, the Hollywood, they have shut down all of our efforts. They demonetize, they deplatform, they shadow ban, they harass, arrest, and intimidate, they dox, they do all of these things to anyone that disagrees with them. And they use the silence they hear as a result as a sign that they are winning and that most people are with them. And then they use that as a psyop to convince all of us that we're crazy. We're the crazy. We wackos who believe that there's such a thing as biological sex. An X chromosome and a Y chromosome. We're insane. We're crazy. We're evil. We're malevolent. We hate humanity. Meanwhile, they are the ones shoveling all this shit and wrapping it in dystopian, grim, depressing exercises in futility that they call films. And they've left us no ability to have our voice heard. Thanks, God love Elon, and he's helped a lot by buying Twitter, but things are far from where they should be when it comes to free speech in this country. We don't have it, right? And we're having to fight tooth and nail for every ounce of ability to speak. The one thing we have, they can't make us go to their shitty, garbage dial of destiny. They can't tell us not to spend our money on Jim Caviezel kicking ass and putting a couple child traffickers up against the wall. They'd love to. They would love to. Why do you think they try and get Dave Chappelle thrown out of comedy clubs? Why do you think they try to get Joe Rogan pulled off the air? They would love to. They're working on it. They always are. But as long as we have money, and as long as we can spend it or not spend it, our voice will be heard. So that is why, Sound of Freedom beating Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in the theaters on Independence Day is giant. It's as important as an election, in my view. It truly is, because how else are they going to know? How else are they going to know that they are losing badly? And will continue to lose. And will continue to lose. EB says, thank you, Captain. First shout out on YouTube for me. One more off the bucket list. Well, I'm happy to be anyone's bucket list. I hope it's not a consolation prize. But no, of course, happy to see you here, EB. Star Fury. Aim higher. Oh, God, Star Fury. You wound me, sir. You wound me. I shall have satisfaction. I shall have satisfaction. No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. Now, hey, when this channel gets to 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, I won't forget you, EB. I won't forget you. Stay in the chat. I'll be here. So I just thought I would share with you a little more good news. Would you like to see some? Would you like to see something that's going to make you happy? I sure would. The Captain's Cast is nothing if not a channel to make you feel lighter, happier, because we are winning, folks. We are winning. Sound of Fury marches on, and try this headline. From the ever persistently perfidious bounding into comics after the Walt Disney Company canned Chief Diversity Officer Latondra Newton. Is that not the perfect name for a diversity officer? I'm just telling you. Miss Newton would like to see you in her office. Oh, God. Warner Brothers Discovery and Netflix lose their diversity heads. The culling has begun. At the end of June, it was revealed that the Walt Disney Company's chief diversity officer, Latondra Newton, was no longer with the company. Now, Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Netflix's have also seen their diversity heads leave their respective companies. Variety announced Newton had left the Walt Disney Company after they obtained an internal company memo on June 20th from the company's HR chief, Sonia Coleman. Oh, yes, I have to read this in my bean counter corporate idiot voice. Coleman wrote in the memo, I'm writing to share the news that Latondra Newton has decided to leave the Walt Disney Company to pursue other endeavors. Since joining the company in 2017, Latondra has led the company's strategic diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, including partnering with stakeholders across the enterprise to amplify stories of the world by people around the world. She has been dedicated to ensuring every person sees themselves and their life experiences represented in a meaningful and authentic way, Coleman added. There she is, a woman with a job that serves no purpose, nobody needs, it exists only to destroy, never to create. It's the perfect job for a corporate aspirant, shall we say. Coleman went on to reveal that Julie Merges would take on Newton's role as an interim basis as the company looked for a new DEI leader. That's like saying, while I look for a new hole in my head. It's like, what are you? Oh my God. Oh, we're going to be weeks without a proper diversity officer. How will we get anything done? How will we do anything at this job? I mean, I can't. What world? What a waste. Look at the amount of money. Can you just imagine the amount at a company the size of Bud Light, for example, with that, their unfortunate looking woman that made the ill-fated decision to engage one Dylan Mulvaney in advertising partnerships. Can you just imagine the millions of dollars in just waste on people that do nothing but just look for problems where none exist? It's their only job. My God. This is why I think, Swords and Starships will always be a private company. It's like, I would never go public because Elon Musk has the right idea. Buy Twitter, keep it private. Do what you want with it. That is brilliant. Additionally, Shelby Curry and DEI internal... Look, Bob Iger can't eliminate the position. It's not possible. Like, you can't do that and get away with it. Not in the world we live in. So what they're probably looking for is a replacement that will just be happy to sit at his, her, or they's desk and just not do a lot. Send a few emails, sit in on the meetings. When you get the wink and the nod, that's your cue to just politely say, well, let's table my idea for next meeting, and then just never bring it up again. While we work on actually making some money because we've lost $890 million in our last year of movies. And there, Oliver with a $5 super chat funding the captain's mission. Why, sir, I salute you. Thank you. Humbled, honored, deeply grateful. And Oliver says diversity and representation is meaningless if the characters are awful and annoying. I mean, it is. Listen, this is a point that gets lost, right? Yeah, I'm having a little fun at the Wokie's expense, I will admit. And I'm engaging, possibly, your captain might possibly be engaging in just a skosh of hyperbole. Just a little. But if I were to be quite sober about all of this, what I would say is that nerds, fans of science fiction, fans of comic books and fantasy, do you want to know something about us? We have always loved diversity. In fact, why were we nerds? Why were we getting wedgies and swirlies and stuffed in the locker and getting in trouble after urinating on mom's dishes? Wait, what? Why was that happening? Because we liked nerdy stuff that nobody liked. Dungeons and Dragons, Star Trek. We liked the idea of different cultures, different species, different races, elves and dwarves, for example, coming together, sometimes fighting wars, sometimes coming together and uniting in something like, I don't know, a united federation of planets. And you know what people thought? We were dumb. They thought we were stupid. You know what we liked? We liked hot female babes like Red Sonja, chopping it up. I loved me some Red Sonja as a kid. And Sigourney Weaver, right? Battling the alien in her underwear. We liked those things. We liked the idea of women in command when they were good characters and when their role was earned. We were the ones on the cutting edge of diversity. We had no choice. We certainly weren't going to be on the varsity team anytime soon. I'm not speaking for all nerds. I'm speaking in generalities, of course. But you get my point. You get my point. We're the ones who've always loved women in comics. We've always loved different races coming together. This idea that fans are toxic and don't like this stuff, this is an invention of insane, sick people. They're called woke. They call themselves woke. Let us never forget that. We're not the ones that called them woke. They called themselves woke because in their arrogance and their hubris, they flew way too close to the sun. They literally created a word. They created a word that was meant to illustrate how enlightened and erudite and awakened that they were to the truth. More than anyone else, if you're woke, you're awake. You gotta get woke, bro. Because if you're not woke, you don't know. They created that word. They put it on themselves. And like anyone in life that's taking themselves too seriously, that you make yourself a target. Because if you're taking yourself too seriously, you're gonna get roasted. So ironically, they really stepped in it. They created a word that was ridiculous. And it was intended to be sober, absolutely. Like, this is enlightenment at its highest. Think of the arrogance of the woke movement for a second. They consider themselves more enlightened than any human beings who have ever walked the earth, ever. That kind of hubris is begging for a fall. So no wonder the word woke has become the mockery that it is. So as I have said, it is an albatross. They shot the albatross. We're just hanging it around their neck. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is your captain's reference. Starfury says, I can't wait for the next Disney financial call. Mr. Iger is so screwed. Women in command. When competent, not when they are Mary Sue. Exactly. I made this point. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I'm sorry, I left you on the browser screen. That was impolite. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the forehead. She is one of the most gangly, unathletic, painfully unathletic, awkward, weird-looking people I've ever seen. I do not understand what people see in this woman to the extent that they do. And she is one of those people that thinks they're charming, which is worse. That is worse than someone who is socially awkward. The only thing worse than, someone who's socially awkward can be endearing because they're kind of unaware. There's a few social graces that kind of go over their head. That can be actually kind of charming. Phoebe Waller-Bridge thinks she's the life of the party, and she's not. She's like the drunk chick. Everyone wants to go home. Oh my God, we're going to go fight a Dial of Destiny. It's like, who invited her? So now compare her with Sarah Ferguson in Mission Impossible, who plays, and I just for the life of me cannot remember her character's name. Mission Impossible. What does she... I'm trying to find like a really good... Anyway, watch Mission Impossible. She's fantastic in it. Gal Gadot. I'm going with the Gadot pronunciation today. I might switch later. Gal Gadot she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. But you know something? She's got her performance of Wonder Woman in the first one, that is. I can't stand 1984 is hot garbage. But the first Wonder Woman is an excellent film. She is excellent in it because she is vulnerable, but she's also heroic. You know, she's strong, but she's also innocent. She's a bit naive and dogged in her determination, but she's also a bit... she's curious. You know, there's a scene I like a lot in that film where she's first walking through London. She's never seen anything like London before, and she's there with Chris Pine's character, Steve something. Steve Trevor. That's right, Steve Trevor. She's following Steve Trevor around London, and she's like, "Oh, a baby," you know. But it's funny because she's never seen one before, you know. She's like, and then she's curious about things in London. She's curious about what people do. Does she walk into London and immediately start saying, "Wow, you're a bunch of colonizers. This is really awful"? I swear, if she had been in the hands of a seriously woke writer, can you just imagine the cringe? Can you just imagine? And then Steve Trevor intervening to, like, you know, because she's a stranger in a strange land. She is a fish out of water, which is partly why she's so charming in that movie. Steve Trevor naturally is her guide, and he has to be because he understands this world she doesn't. By the way, when he lands in Themyscira, he is the fish out of water, and she has to help him because he doesn't understand the world of the Amazons, and he's out of his depth. So what I like about the film is that when it's appropriate, she is the one leading him when he's in Themyscira. And then when she is in London, he is the one that has to lead her because she doesn't know what she's doing. It's charming. It's beautiful. It's a dance. It's a balance. It's actually romantic. Your captain is nothing if not a romantic. Never let it be said. So yes, we nerds love women. We love strong women. We love strong women in superhero roles. We don't like to be lectured. That's what we don't like. You know. By the way, it's also funny too because I heard Baggage Claim, Hat Tip Baggage Claim. She was talking about how she had heard this. She actually watched the show Fleabag, in which Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the star. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it. But she was saying it basically Fleabag is a kind of... she's a protagonist that's obnoxious, a little bit sociopathic, and she does nasty things to people, but she's slowly but surely becoming more human, and she's learning from her mistakes, and it's kind of a redemption story. But she's a very unlikable character. And there was an interview in which the shill media person was asking Phoebe Waller-Bridge, you know, do you think it's an issue that people find your character so unlikable? Do you think that if your character were a man, this would be an issue? And she essentially said, you know, that's a good point. Maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe it wouldn't be such an issue if she were a man. If it were a man, she could be as unlikable as you want, and nobody would have a problem with it. And Baggage Claim's point was that this gets in these people's head. It gets in their head. It becomes a chip on their shoulder. They begin to think that this is true. And she was saying, when I was listening to this, it was on Friday Night Tights, by the way, and I immediately thought of a character that is exactly like that is a man, that is very unlikable at times. And that would be House MD. He is an asshole to everyone in his life. Now, at times, it's funny and endearing because you enjoy watching just the awful shit he does to people. But his character is frankly hard to watch at times because he can be so absolutely antisocial. He can be so destructive of people in his life. He actually becomes an unlikable character. You know, the whole point of House MD is that you're rooting for him to figure out how to be human. So it's a false narrative. It is a false narrative they perpetuate that, you know, look, when people are assholes, male or female, they're not likable. And for some reason, the woke mind virus has got it in their heads that women can be as big of assholes, as big of pricks as they want, and they should be liked and celebrated. So anyway, the great diversity culling is happening. So we have lost the Discovery and the Netflix diversity heads. Something tells me, I don't know, they would be wiser to eliminate the position. Oh, here is the diversity head, Verena Myers. Yes, she has been fired from... Oh, no, she's the replacement. She is the replacement for Disney. Did I read that right? Okay, following Newton's exit, the Wrap reported that Netflix's head of inclusion strategy, Verna Myers, was stepping down from her position. So she's the Netflix one that got the chop. While she is exiting the company as head of inclusion strategy, she will still advise the company, albeit the reports note she will be focusing primarily on her consulting company. Yes, hire the Verna Myers company if you need any help with your diversity problems. Oh my God. What does that company do? How does it get work? Oh, I guess, different strokes. In a statement, Myers said, "It's hard to step away from the company and this role because of how much I love Netflix and the people here. I'm so excited for the talented Wade Davis, who will be taking the lead of the I&D work along with our incredible inclusion strategy team. And I can't wait to see the continued progress we will all make together. More like regress. At the end of June, Los Angeles Times reported that Warner Brothers Discovery asked its diversity leader, Karen Horn, who was the company's vice president for diversity, equity, and inclusion in North America. According to, they asked her, I read it as axed diversity leader Karen Horn. And here she is, the lovely, the stunning and brave. She looks like a happy woman. There is the voice. There is the, that is the face of a happy person living the dream right there. So there you have it. Oh, wait. Okay, now we have a memo sent to Warner Brothers Discovery staffers by the company's chief global diversity, equity, inclusion officer, Asif Sadiq, read, Karen is a talented... Her name is Karen, Jesus. Karen is a talented executive who is committed to our shared goals of creating an even more inclusive company and an accessible and equitable industry. I thank Karen for the important role she played in establishing a strong foundation while integrating the legacy company's teams and programs, and wish her the very best. Well, thank you, sir. She is very appreciative. What else do I have in the stack of stuff for you? So I watched a couple of things. Star Fury says House is magnificently competent. That's what gives him a pat. That is a great point, Star Fury. Well met, sir. Yes, House is an unlikable character, but the fact that he's so competent makes it work. Now, there is a trap embedded in that argument that the Wokies would try and employ, which is, well, that's Rey. Rey's very competent as a Jedi. It's the same thing. Don't you get it? And but the difference is, House's knowledge is literally the price for everything else in his life. Like in other words, House is a superhero. We're talking about Blake Snyder's 10 genres, right? Golden Fleece story, Dude with a Problem. There's another type of story, which is the superhero story. I don't know if this exactly applies to House. His episodes are more like a why done it. But House is a superhero. He can do something nobody else can do. So House, every good superhero must also have a curse. House's curse is his misanthropy. I mean, basically, the fact that House is so brilliant, he's such a genius, he can do all of this, it comes at the price of him being alone, drug addicted, and quite literally in physical pain all the time. So he's not a Marty Stew, to use the antithesis of a Mary Sue. He's not a Marty Stew because his life is quite miserable because of the high price he pays for his intellect sort of driving him to be such an asshole all the time. So I totally love your point. He's magnificently competent, but that competence is very carefully balanced by, honestly, his history as a doctor, his genius, and the price he pays for all of those things. Absolutely. He's very much a kind of Sherlock Holmes character. I wonder can I think of a female equivalent that would be like House? Not a Mary Sue, but she's you know what? Actually, I can. I can think of an exact female equivalent that is a woman character that embodies this role I love. I just it just came right to my head. And I just want to give you a picture. Delay of game, I know. Just bear with me 1 second. I just want a picture of this character so that I can have it land with the proper impact. And that would be Gillian Anderson's character in The Fall. I believe her name is Stella. So she is an investigator. She's an English, English titles for police are like crazy. They're absolutely insane. We don't have anything quite like it here. She's like superintendent, special, Stella, The Fall character, Stella Gibson. Detective Superintendent Stella Gibson. Okay, yeah, that's what she is. So anyway, they're in Belfast. This guy, played by Jamie Dorner, is this serial killer, and he's hunting women in the streets of Belfast, and nobody can catch him. They bring in what is it? Detective Superintendent Stella Gibson to track him down. Now, what I love about this character, she is very much like House. Because she's a genius, she's brilliant, she's excellent at what she does. What is her curse? Her curse is that she has a lot in common with psychopaths. That's partly why she understands them so well. She's cold. She has a distance between herself and the rest of humanity. She often will be at a crime scene, and other officers will be puking, or they'll be horrified. Oh my God, how could anyone do this? And she's cold, calculating, and she actually has to catch herself, sometimes saying something so clinical and scientific that it kind of horrifies people. They're like, how can you be so cold, And it's not that she is cold. She does have an affinity for the victims. She does care about them. She just happens to be a very intellectual person. And so for her, she has a hard time she's more interested in things. She's more interested in facts and psychology. She's just not as interested in the human connection. So she's a great character, played magnificently by Gillian Anderson, and she could be very unlikable if it weren't for the fact that she's also so damn good at her job. She pays a high price for how good at her job she is, and she does, in very subtle ways over the course of the show, reveal that there is a human layer underneath her cold exterior that, when you get there, but part of her problem is that she also has compassion for the killers. That's kind of her problem. She has compassion for the victims. She also has she doesn't condone, she doesn't have a fascination. Well, fascination, yes, but she doesn't like them. She wants to put them in jail, and she hates what they do. But she has a kind of connection with them because a part of her personality is sort of like theirs. And that's what's really interesting about her character. So great point, Star Fury, and it sent your captain on a tangent, but it was well intended, well deserved, something. It's a live show, folks. It's a live show. This is unscripted. unscripted entertainment. Hopefully. Hopefully it's entertainment. So I watched Secret Invasion, the third episode. God, has it been 3 already? And I have got to tell you, they did something in this episode that blew me away. It was incredible. Because it's one thing to have Jake Skywalker, a.k.a. Luke Skywalker, have his try to murder his nephew, have his entire Jedi temple torn down, all of his Padawans murdered, retreat to an island, destroy the Jedi Order, become a mean old hermit, and give up entirely on life. To have Indiana Jones piss off his son so much that he goes to the Vietnam War, gets killed. Indiana winds up a drunk on his Barcalounger, alone and divorced. To have Han Solo, be a failed father, a failed husband who goes, after being the general who helped bring the rebellion to victory, go right back to being a ne'er-do-well smuggler, a loser. But to have all of those futures destroyed, because you could go back and watch the original trilogy, you can watch the original Indiana Jones films, and you can pretend that future doesn't happen. You can reassure yourself that it's not canon, it's not real, you disregard the sequel trilogy, so the past is still safe. This show, Secret Invasion, not only is destroying Nick Fury's future, it's destroying his past. Let me explain. Talos, the alien played by, what's the guy's name? Ben Mendelsohn. I just love Ben Mendelsohn. It's a credit to what a good actor he is that this character is boring as hell and is a complete waste of space. Yet it's always a pleasure to see Ben Mendelsohn performing on screen. It's like he just is good. It's incredible. He's elevating basically a phone book level script. He's elevating it with what a great actor he is. But anyway, Ben Mendelsohn's Talos is talking about how dissatisfied he is with Nick Fury. This show is Nick Fury getting literally berated by every single character. Every single one. I'm not shitting you. The Agent Falsworth, she's got to lecture him. Rhodey has got to lecture him. And then every time he's in a scene with Talos, who is, the Wokies, by the way, are rooting for a gay romance between Talos and Nick Fury. Just, you look for the headlines. Trust me, they're all about this, folks. And they want it to happen so bad. Tumblr is just on pins and needles. And this is his only friend. Nick Fury's only friend in the show. Everyone hates the dude. Everyone hates him. It should be called Everyone Hates Nick. Even Talos in every single scene is grumbling. He's unhappy to see Nick Fury. And by the way, Nick Fury's unhappy to see everyone else too. Nick Fury is miserable and unhappy in every scene. He's an asshole in every single scene. He's getting nothing done. He is like a work-from-home version of Nick Fury. I swear to God, he's I'll email my work after Netflix, Nick Fury, this show. Because he's doing nothing. He's never in a command center. He's never in front of a computer. He's never analyzing data. He's never cracking a book and trying to put together the clues. He's never doing any spycraft. He never has any spy tools. He never picks a freaking lock. He does nothing. Do you know what he does? He goes to bars and he goes to taverns and he goes to diners and he sits down and listens to someone lecture him, fire him, berate him, or talk about race and how he's so put upon. It's unbelievable, folks. This show, and the thing is, I have seen some people who've been very unhappy with Disney Marvel praising this show because they're like, finally we have a serious show. And I'm like, no, you don't. This may be the worst thing Marvel's produced that I've seen. I haven't seen She-Hulk, and I haven't seen Miss Marvel. I haven't seen Werewolf by Night or Moon Knight, so I haven't seen a lot of them, as you could tell. This show is garbage. Anyway, so he's being in his second lecture by the same character in as many scenes. He's been lectured by this character in twice in as many scenes. So he's sitting there in the car. Ben Mendelsohn is just telling him what a loser he is. And Nick Fury pushes back. Nick Fury says, oh, that's not true. I am a super spy. I ran S.H.I.E.L.D., don't you know? And he says, oh, did you? And I'm like, oh, what's happening here? And Talos basically says, where do you know where I found you when I landed on Earth? Because lest we forget, dear sailors and star nauts, the beginning of Nick Fury's story is the film Captain Marvel. So in Captain Marvel, Nick Fury is a mid-level agent, which is not really a problem considering this is him in the 90s. He's rising through the ranks. So Talos says, you know where I found you? I found you riding a desk in middle management going nowhere in your career. And then Nick Fury says, well, I was working my way through the ranks and I rose pretty quickly, didn't I? He's like, yeah, you did, because you had a private network of Skrulls that were doing all your dirty work that nobody knew about. A bunch of shape-shifting, hyper-advanced aliens who were helping you. And we got you all the way to the top. We got you all the way to the top, Fury. All that data we fed you. All that intel. All those secret missions we went on. And you never held up your end of the bargain. And I had to sit there in stupefaction at the absolute next-level brilliance of this absolute vandalization of Nick Fury. I couldn't believe it. I sat there, I said, wow. The circle is complete. The circle is complete. They erased Nick Fury as a competent character 100%. They put a line right through him. He was never the Nick Fury you saw. Ever. All he was a con artist who had a network of aliens that can shapeshift, who was his secret weapon that nobody knew about. So he was never the spy master. He was never the brilliant agent that you saw. It was all him drafting. Do you know what he is? He's a mediocre man who was benefiting from the work of more intelligent men. Now, how's that for unintentional irony? I can't. In addition to being terrible writers, in addition to being mean-spirited vandals, the Wokies are fucking idiots, man. Like, they are fucking idiots. I can't even believe how stupid that is. You just had, in the last episode, an entire speech where Rhodey and Nick Fury explained that, well, they'd be so much higher in the ranks if it weren't for mediocre white men. And then in the very next episode, they basically say Nick Fury is a mediocre man who just got to his position because of the Skrulls. There's a kind of beauty and elegance to it when you really think about it. It's like, oh my God. What even is this show? Oh yes, I missed that, Star Fury. Ed, when I said I shall have satisfaction, sir, he said teaspoons at 20 paces. We shall duel with teaspoons. That's a devastating weapon. Well, as the sheriff of Nottingham said in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, when he was asked why a spoon to carve out someone's heart, he said, because it'll hurt more. Secret Invasion. This show is just, I honestly, I thought about, I could sit here and critique it more for you, but I don't know what to critique, to be quite honest with you, because like nothing happens. He goes from bar to diner to tavern to bar to basically talk to people. And most of what he learns is just fed to him through exposition dumps. Like, it just, this is happening and that's happening. The dialogue in this show, I also watched The Witcher. I started watching Witcher Season 3, Episode 1, so it just so happens that I have 2 shows sitting in my consciousness. I'm serious. I may have to take a break, because I'm telling you right now, I'm starting to feel dumber. As a writer, I'm feeling dumber. I'm like, oh, I don't know how much of this is safe for me to consume, quite frankly. Because the dialogue in these shows is the most banal. It's soap opera dialogue. It's just like, let me see if I can grab this headline for you. Tarantino's quote on this is just freaking brilliant, and he's so onto something with this. There it is. I think I found it. Why Tarantino explains why cinema is better than TV. Yes, I think this is what I'm looking for. From the world of real. And let me just do a quick Control F for what I'm looking for. Yes, so, yeah, there it is. I found it. Cool. Yeah. Okay, so Quentin Tarantino had this to say about television. I've got no axe to grind against television per se, all right? I've got no axe to grind against television, but everyone watches all these shows, and they're all just soap operas. It can be very entertaining while you're watching it, but at the end of the day, it's all a soap opera. You learn about a bunch of characters, you kind of know all their backstories, and then you watch them fight or hook up or this or that and the other, and it's just a soap opera. It's very engaging while you're watching it, but when it's over with, 3 weeks after I watch the last episode, I usually don't have the same feelings that I have after I watch a good movie. Yet, when I'm watching it, it's compelling. Except the exception here being in the case of Secret Invasion and The Witcher, it's not even that. It's not even compelling soap opera. And this hit me because I have seen soap operas just for, I watched them for a friend. And this is actually exactly how dialogue is in soap operas. It's mostly people mulching over the same topics in a melodramatic way over and over. That is Secret Invasion. Every single dialogue goes something like this. I didn't think I'd see you again, Nick Fury. Well, you know me, even when I'm out, I'm in. Oh, is that so? Are you in? Is that really what you're saying? Of course I'm in. Well, why don't you just tell me what you want, Fury? I take it you didn't come in here just to tell me you're not out, but are instead in. Well, I sure didn't come in here just to tell you that. Matter of fact, I'm surprised to see you eating that crap. I thought you didn't like human food. Well, it's an English breakfast. What's wrong with it? Why don't you just get to your point, Nick Fury? Why don't you just tell me what you want? Who says I want anything? Maybe I'm just here to see an old friend. Oh, that's a bunch of crap. You came in here for a reason. Why don't you just tell me what it is? Well, I need a favor. Oh, there it is. I knew you needed a favor. Well, why are you so mad about that? I need a favor, well, you haven't helped us, Skrulls. You haven't helped us at all, and we've been doing you favors, and when am I going to get a thank you? I'm trying to tell you thank you, Talos. I'm trying to say thank you. All right, fine. I guess I'll help you. Exposition vomit. Blah, 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 everything happening. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's go to next location now. So, sure, we can go to next location, but first I want to hear something from you. Oh, come on. Let's just go. What do you want to hear? I want to hear a thank you. Would a thank you kill you? Okay, thank you, my dearest friend in the world. Let's go. I cannot stand how that is, I swear to God, watch it. Every conversation is like this. Every single one. It's like, oh my God, you're not saying anything. You're not saying anything. Nobody's investigating. Nobody is discussing what could be happening or who could be a Skrull and who isn't a Skrull. As if that could be interesting. But for the sake of argument, ironically, I think part of the problem with this show is the idea of a spy thriller about people who can look like anyone is inherently, it's kind of impossible to write that to be interesting, I think. Think about it like this. There's 1 million people in the world who can look like anyone. Now go solve the mystery of what they're doing. I almost wonder if you can even write a show that has any tension involved in that. Now, I say that, but then immediately my fertile mind, which has a very long memory, your captain's mind has, immediately I'm uncovered in my consciousness, without almost any effort whatsoever, my dear sailors and starnuts, a show that did do this very well. Do you know what it's called? Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined series. In the show, there is a human variant of Cylons, and they look human. So they can secrete themselves into the human population, and you wouldn't know who they are. And there are basically 4 seasons of this show in which a major source of the tension, the drama, the terror, the fear, even the mistakes that the characters make that were unforced errors, all of them are driven by this paranoia of who could be a Cylon, right? It's done brilliantly. It's done with nuance. There's careful reveals. There's times where they inaccurately assume someone's a Cylon and it blows up in their face. There's even characters who worry that they themselves are a Cylon but can't be sure, that they're not a sleeper agent, and they're in a panic about it. It's quite brilliant. It's quite brilliant. This show, not even in the same league, not even in the same orbit. This show is paint drying, as I've said. There's no dramatic tension whatsoever because, frankly, I've not seen one character in this show do anything other to figure out what's going on, as if there's a mystery. There's no mystery in this show. None. Like, none. Because you already know everything you need to know. There's a bunch of Skrulls. They want to blow up the planet. They can look like us. Also, we're watching their side of the story in every episode. They live in old nuclear power plants. There they are. There they are. And we're left to guess, oh, who could they be? Who could they not be? Who cares? And it's like, I see nobody in this show trying to figure anything out. The only thing I see is, well, there was a torture scene, and then there's scenes in taverns where people are just asking for the exposition dump so we can go on to the next thing. There's a romance, but I almost forgot. I think it's season 3. Check me if I'm wrong here. Every single scene involving Nick Fury, he gets absolutely just hammered. He gets absolutely hounded about what a loser failure he is. Every single one. Including 2 separate scenes with his best friend, where his best friend is telling him what a failure, how much he's failed him, and how disappointing he is, and how unappreciative he is of all their great work getting him into the position he was in, which was totally unearned. He has this meant to be kind of a tender, romantic scene with his wife, you know, and she's basically spending the whole time saying, why did you go up to space and leave me? You know, you were gone during the blip, and that was hard enough. That was hard. That was very hard. But then you came back, and that was, and I understood the leaving. I just didn't understand the staying away. And I'm like, dude, you know what this is? This is writers who just invented that he has a wife for the sake of whatever, and they just didn't even think it through. They're like, wait, he's been on a space station, but he had a wife. Well, let's just have her be mad at him. Okay. And it's so unconvincing. I feel nothing for these characters. I feel no investment whatsoever. What an absolute travesty. Nick Fury has been worse than Jake Skywalker in this show. They ruined his future and they retconned his past. Every time you see Nick Fury in the original Avengers film being a badass, being a respected spy master, being the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. that everyone salutes, just know he didn't earn it. Not one bit of it. He is a fake. He is a phony. He's a freaking loser. And the only reason he's there is because he exploited a poor, oppressed alien species for their powers and did nothing for him. And when the going got tough, what did he do? He went up to space to cry. He's a pussy. And he always has been, don't you know? I didn't do any of this. The show did this. The show did this, in which Samuel L. Jackson is participating in the bitchification of his own character. Unfreaking real. Unfreaking real. No wonder Henry Cavill quit The Witcher. There's a man that actually cared. There's a man that actually cared about his character and is like, I'm not going to stand by while you bitchify my character. I ain't going to do it. Henry Cavill's like, I'm out. And it's amazing to me that Samuel L. Jackson, he's one of these tough guy actors, isn't he? He's one of these actors that talks a tough game. Oh, yeah, he's like Ron Perlman, he's always like one of these tough guys like Robert De Niro out there just doing, F-bomb laced rants on Twitter about latest thing that they're pissed about. And meanwhile, look at what a bitch his character is, and he's here for it. He's fine with it. He's fine with it. He can have it, quite frankly. Sam Jackson, you can have Nick Fury, sir. You're welcome to him. Let's see. Starfury says this was done better on Doctor Who. The Zygon invasion and the Zygon inversion, and also way cheaper. Oh, that is an interesting point, meaning the kind of identity crisis, body snatcher, aliens that can look like us trope, right? You're saying it's done better with the Zygon invasion and inversion in Doctor Who, which I have not watched Doctor Who, so I will take your word for it. Oliver says they ruined Nick Fury's backstory for a cheap cat joke. Your captain has a confession to make to the crew. When I first saw, because I was a little blue-pilled at this point still, because you got to remember, when Captain Marvel came out, right, Marvel was still king. Like, Marvel was still good. I still believed that their heart was in the right place. And Captain Marvel came out, I was a little bit unaware of a lot of the gender stuff in the media about it. I just went to see it, to see a movie. I remember being okay with it. It was on the level of, like, Ant-Man. I was fine. It was cool. I definitely did not see the things I see now when I watch a film like that, But I remember I liked the Flurkin. I thought it was hilarious. I liked the cat. I like cats. I'm a cat guy and a dog guy. I like both. Anyway, then the cat scratches his eye. And I was so caught up in the moment that, I laughed and I thought it was clever. And, from a certain point of view, it is clever. And that's the problem, isn't it? It's too clever by half. We have, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the forehead, recently said she loves that she punches Indiana Jones in the face at the end because it was just so gloriously delightful, darling. And it's like, see, but that's the problem. That is such a lack of respect for these characters, and in the moment, I thought, oh, that's hilarious. That's cool. What a great Easter egg. And it's like, man, did they get one over on me with that? Because I absolutely, having heard people break that down as to why that's so offensive, why that is so destructive of his character. And it's like, the minute I hear it, I'm like, oh my God, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. It's like, you are reducing this character's cred by saying, oh, he got scratched in the eye. Now, this is probably the most forgiving you're ever going to hear your captain. And that's only because I myself am a writer. My 2 novels, Blood and Oak, available now, linked in the description, are on Amazon, and www.galaxyborn.com is where you can view my trailer for my upcoming science fiction novel. So as a writer, I tend to relate to other writers on that level, and I tend to give them the benefit of the doubt at times. I have no patience for woke writers, primarily because they're not writers. Because writers are curious. Writers want to explore things. Woke people already have all the answers. They have nothing they need to explore. They're just telling you what you need to hear, what they think you do. But when I hear this idea of like, oh, the cat scratched his eye, right? The idea to me is you want to surprise the viewer, right? The idea is it's a mystery. It's a mystery. How did he lose his eye, right? Now, as a writer, you know that your audience is picturing in their mind 1,000 different things that could have happened. Oh, he was in a nasty fight and he got, a machete to the eye, or a bomb went off and the shrapnel hit him, right? And so you're, as a viewer and as the writer, what you would like to do is surprise and delight them with the origin. You would like them to see an origin that they didn't expect. And if I were to be as charitable as I could possibly be, I would say if a misguided writer got it in their head that was a clever way to surprise the viewer without realizing what they had done, I could understand it's a mistake. It's a grave mistake, don't get me wrong. But it is a understandable mistake if that was where their heart was. If their heart was, I want to do something that will surprise and delight the viewer. Now, here's the question. Do I think that it was malicious? Do I think it was just an honest mistake? Do I think these are writers that are victims of lazy tropes? Possibly any and all of the above. My take on it, given the fullness of time, seeing how regularly this happens. If it was once or twice, that's one thing. But, every single movie, every single one. Thor, Love and Thunder. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, every single Marvel TV show, the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, The Flash, Shazam, Black Adam, Dial of Destiny. All of these movies, it's like clockwork every single time. Sad old loser. Every single time. Now, that can't be coincidence. And that is why I think, it is one thing to accidentally use the wrong trope to surprise and delight a viewer or reader. It is another thing to be deliberately vandalizing these characters over and over and over. And I am willing to concede that some writers may just not understand what they're doing. Like Jeff Loveness, who wrote Quantumania. Why? I thought MODOK was awesome. There's a guy who just doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He just doesn't know what he's doing. He's just a soy-infused, lucky to have his job writer in Hollywood, and he's just trying to do what they want. He's just trying to give them the pound of flesh they demand, and it's not his fault. He doesn't understand these tropes are stupid, and that what he's doing is he's turning everything into the same mulched over, comedy by algorithm garbage that all these movies have turned into. You watch The Winter Soldier. It is a taut, smart, Jason Bourne style kinetic spy thriller. I mean, to this day, I have a hard time calling it. The Winter Soldier is one of my favorite MCU films. I can watch it any day of the week. It's incredible. And it's not your typical superhero film. Iron Man is one of the funnest. It is the funnest superhero film I've ever seen. Like, hands down. It's not even close. Iron Man 1 is incredible. He is this billionaire playboy who is just creating things. So like every film had its own style, its own voice. Now they've turned it all into just comedy by committee. And worse, the comedy is mean-spirited. And I think that's what you're hitting upon there, Oliver, is that it is mean-spirited, right? There's a way to have a laugh at Nick Fury's expense that is fun, it's clever, gives the character a little bit of humility and charm. Giving to his backstory that his eye was scratched out by an alien cat is not the way to do it. It is the way to disappoint the viewer, and that you should never do. And I will say, I think there is an unconscious block that Hollywood writers have. I've talked about this before, but it's, I think Rian Johnson suffers. I know his name's Ryan. I don't care. I like saying Rian because it sounds wimpier. Rian Johnson, I believe, is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. He has an unconscious block to his own success. Now, you could argue getting $100 million from Netflix to make 3 shitty movies, I suppose that definitely meets the definition of success. But I'm just viewing it from a writer being able to look back on what I've accomplished. And to me, money is great, and I love it, and I would be happy to have it. But I would only be happy with those hundreds of millions if it was because those were the hundreds of millions of happy customers that had been delighted and enjoyed what they saw and were happy that to go on this adventure with these characters. If that was where it came from, then yes, that would be my measurement of success. So is Rian Johnson successful? He has the money, but what did he actually produce, right? I think he's a block to his own success because I think in his mind he's incapable of writing a character that just honors who they're supposed to be. Nick Fury is supposed to be a badass. He is supposed to be a super spy, the spy master. You forget your captain is a fan of Marvel lore. I loved, Nick Fury's little appearances and things like the animated Spider-Man show and stuff like that. I loved that stuff. And so I know that Nick Fury is supposed to be the ultimate spy master, and that's as it should be. And I think these writers feel they can't. They can't have a character who's just the Lone Ranger. They can't have a character who's just a badass. Think about it. Why do they hate this Sound of Fury so much? They don't like it because it's just a guy who's a good man going to save children and kill bad guys. That's it. And based on a real dude, by the way. They can't process that. That shouldn't be possible in their mind. Everything has to be subverted. No hero is truly a hero. Do you notice this? back in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, you could have war films in which World War II GIs were just heroes. Stone cold heroes going into battle to save lives, or going into battle to rescue POWs or beat the Nazis. Right? Nowadays, every hero has to be self-doubting. Every hero has to be reluctant. Every hero has to be somehow morally compromised. Every hero has to be guilty about something. Which tells me they feel guilty about something. Which tells me they have a block to their own success, somewhere sticking in their mind. You could not have as many freaking failures on your ledger as Disney has without having a literal mindset block to your own success. Now, you can call it the woke mind virus, and indeed it well may be. But I would say it goes deeper than that. I think it is a resistance to success. I think Disney, these people like Kathleen Kennedy, you could give them the perfect vehicle for their success and they would run it straight into the ditch because something in their mind is broken and it is blocking them. Starfury says, Winter Soldier is peak superhero movie, just the right level of peril. You're so right about that, And do you not long for the days when the worst thing about to happen and that plot, by the way, was awesome. The Hydra was going to take over and assassinate all the people in the world that could threaten them. Like, that was super cool. Do you not long for the days when that was the kind of world threatening? Now it's like every multiverse is about to be destroyed. The multiple multiverses, they're all going to go down. It's like, oh my God, how can I get invested in this? There's no stakes anymore. What's wrong with having, Spider-Man having to stop the Vulture? Like, that's cool. Let's just have that. This is why Eric July has got the right idea, the young Rippa, with Isom. It's like Isom is a dude who is saving the neighborhood. And I like that. I like that about him. I think that's the right place to start. Now, eventually he'll work his way up to saving the world. I have no doubt. But the point is, it's not episode 1, he's saving the multiverse. It would kill all of the tension. We need a return to ground level superhero stories. We need a return to scale. We need to scale the story. If we are talking about a multiverse in peril, it should be an all hands on deck story. It should be the end of a 4-film Avengers arc is what it should be, not the next Marvel film. That's one reason why Quantumania was just garbage to me. I just, every time they started talking about what Kang was going to do to the multiverse, it was like, oh my God, I want to leave right now. I can't take one more minute of this bilge. It's like, who cares? Kang in the multiverse, the multiple Kangs. All right, what else in the I watched Witcher. Now, this is probably not a fair review because I have not been watching the first 2 seasons. I watched like the first couple episodes, and here's the thing. The idea of Geralt and the action is cool, and I love Henry Cavill as this character, but even in that first episode, I'm like, to me, it's just a monster fight. It's just not enough for me to just get interested. I see a CGI monster, and I think, all right, he's got to swing the sword a couple more times. He's got to wound it. It's going to screech. It's going to fight. He'll wrestle with it a little bit. Maybe it throws him down, and he gets back up. And then finally it dies. And that's the end of the monster fight. And I just feel nothing. Okay. I feel nothing. It's like, who cares? To me, the craftsmanship of a story is you've got to make me believe that this monster could be the end of everything. If we don't beat this monster now, that's not to say you can't have a fun and games kind of scene. Now, in the Blake Snyder beat sheet of storytelling, fun and games is in Act 1 of a story. It's where the characters just in their element, they're just doing their thing. An example of this would be John Wick in the Red Circle in the first John Wick film. He goes into the Red Circle to get the Russian mob boss's son, and he just wrecks that place. And there's really no belief in that scene that he's going to lose on the part of the audience. but you're curious to see what he's going to do. You're curious to see what he's like in battle. So that would be an example of fun and games. The purpose of the scene is to see the character doing what they do. And so that is fine. I'm totally fine with a fun and games, Geralt has to kill a monster fight. Even so, I still feel a lack of stakes because from my perspective, who is he? Why does he need to kill this monster? Why is he killing monsters? What's on the line here? I actually have no idea in that first monster fight, so I have no reason to care. And this is my problem right from the beginning with this show. So I never watched season 1 and 2, but I hear so much about it that I'm like, okay, well, now I have this channel, and I figured, well, let me pop over to season 3, episode 1, and just see what I see. And I watched the full season recap, and may I just tell you, as someone who has not seen the first 2 seasons, that was one of the most unhelpful recaps I've ever seen. I'm like, what? I still have no clue what has even happened in this show up to this point. It was mostly like a music video. It was like a music video with a bunch of like lines that Henry Cavill says and that Yennefer say that are supposed to sound very dramatic and very like, this world is in peril. And I'm like, okay, but what does that tell me about what's actually happened in the show? The monsters are out there, and the monsters will come someday. She is our only hope. And I'm just like, but that doesn't tell me what happened. Like, that just tells me this is a fantasy story. So it's like totally unhelpful. Not at all helpful recap. I have no clue what's going on in this show. I start watching it, and I will say this. It's like, it makes me think of Skyrim. You know, it's like, it is gorgeous scenery. They do a really good job of creating a fantasy realm. I will give them that credit. It's beautiful to look at. And Henry Cavill, great as Geralt. He looks great as this character. His sword work is just a sheer pleasure to watch. It is just absolutely a joy. He is so good. At that being said, very often, and I saw in the first couple episodes, I had this feeling, why does anyone fight this guy? Who would fight this guy? They never win. You can't beat him. He never loses. He never even gets close to losing. It doesn't matter how outnumbered he is. It doesn't matter how skilled or how magical the enemy is. They never have a chance. Ever. And there's usually like 100 witnesses to every time he puts a beat down on the deadliest, dastardly, most terrible bounty hunters in all of Rivia. And he just killed them all. Like they were nothing. Well, like they were wet tissue paper. And the whole town witnesses it. And yet here comes another half dozen idiots to challenge him again. And every single time they look just as clueless as the last bunch. They look just as unprepared for what they're in for. Yeah, you're going down, you are. And it's like, no, it's not. You're not even going to put a dent. And I'm thinking, see, this kills the tension for me, because it's like he's never challenged in this show. There's never someone where I actually feel like he's in danger. There's never, and you know what? And this is probably why, because I haven't seen all of it. This is, you're probably a little frustrated with your captain's take here because you're probably like, yeah, duh, like you're getting to it here. From my perspective, if someone has not seen it, I can understand why fans of the show are irritated because it is not Henry Cavill's story. This should be, well, I couldn't tell you in the Blake Snyder genre what this is. It's not a Golden Fleece story because what are they looking for? It's not I guess it could be a dude with a problem story. The only problem is that Henry Cavill's not really the center of it, at least the episode I saw. Is it it could be a rites of passage story for Ciri, which I would say that's probably the closest I could get to. It is a rites of passage story for Ciri. And man, she's pretty to look at, but she has got zero charisma. She's not she's not an interesting character. Yennefer, I hear a lot about Yennefer being just the most cringe character of all time. Now, I remember her from the early episodes, and I thought everything involving not Henry Cavill in that show was completely stupid. Like, the plot was an absolute mess. That battle where the king and queen go out and get killed, it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like, clearly, it's a miracle you weren't conquered sooner, if that's your idea of how to win a medieval battle. These writers have no understanding of medieval warfare, like zero. So, do you know what it is? It's just sludge, this show. I literally am looking at it, and I'm like, there's pretty fantasy, landscapes. There's awesome sword fighting. There's an interesting monster here or there. There's ostensibly some different characters competing in a sort of Game of Thrones in this world. So why is this so boring? That's literally the question that's on my mind as I'm watching it. I'm like, so why do I feel like nothing is happening in this show? And that's all I could say is like, Yennefer is not interesting. Oh, is she thirsty or is she thirsty? Oh my God. I've only seen the first episode of season 3. She is one thirsty bitch. Like she wants her some Henry. She wants her some Henry so bad, and it's a little desperate, I gotta tell you. She's putting notes on his door every day. Dude, it took me 5 minutes to figure that thing out. Because there's there's a note. She's hammering on his door every morning. He pulls the note off and reads it, and you're hearing her in voiceover, but she's right there. And I suddenly realized that, he's giving her the silent treatment, and she's putting notes on his door every morning so he can read them, and you're hearing her voice. So it was very confusing at first because I thought, wow, she must be like another character who's like 100 miles away. But wait, who's delivering these notes? So I was confused. And then I realized, oh, no, it's just she's giving notes because... And I'm thinking, so dude, she's a crazy ex is what she is. He's living with his crazy ex-girlfriend. What? Now, I mentioned how in Secret Invasion, every single dialogue is them sitting at a table talking. It's circular. It's just mulching over melodramatic, nonsense, nothing. It's just I thought you never ate that kind of thing. I know you didn't come here just to talk about what I eat. What is it, my old friend? Oh, are we still friends then? I don't know. Are we? Oh, my God. I can't take these... This is writing by ChatGPT. It's the same shit in this show. It's like literally, you know what this is? This is basically a teen girl, like, romance, like, soap opera, is what they've turned The Witcher into. You know what he is? He is a henpecked babysitter in this first, and all he's got his crazy ex is trying to work on him, just wear him down until he finally gives it up for her. And then you've got, I feel like Henry was suffering quite a bit under the female gaze in this episode, let me tell you. And it's very offensive. It's very offensive. And Ciri is trying so hard to be a protagonist and is not succeeding. And yes, she's the girl that's the key to everything, which is, yes, the old trope. But even as girls that are the key to everything go, I cannot make heads or tails of why she's so important. Like, these, look, I don't know this world, so I honestly don't know anything about the lore, so I couldn't really comment on what, like, the different races are supposed to look like. It's another one of these made-for-TV, implausibly multiracial situations where, everyone's a different color. So the problem is there is no sense of time or place. Where does anyone come from? What are the actual politics of this world? House of the Dragon was able to incorporate characters of different physical appearances, right? Different real world races, but we're able to incorporate them in a way in which it was still clear the differences between, House Targaryen, House Stark, House Lannister, what was the house of, what was the house that was the fishing people? That's, oh my God, I sound like a normie. It's been a while since I saw House of the Dragon, but you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, there's a sense of like what all the houses are. There's a sense of like what their story is and what their motivations are. You know what you get from House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones up until it kind of collapsed? You had a sense of what every house wanted. Do you know what I'm saying here? It's like there was a sense of like, what do the Starks, if the Starks could have anything they want, if they could just wave a magic wand, what would it be? You know what it would be? To be left alone in the cold north, to raise their families in peace, once in a while do their duty, be the man that swings the sword to pass the sentence, whatever, and go home to their castle and look after their people. Peace. Peace is what the Starks want, and to be left alone. Peace and independence. That's all the Starks want. And they are the dude with a problem house, because they're always getting dragged into things they don't want to be a part of. What do the Greyjoys want? Well, the Greyjoys just want to kind of loot, pillage, rape, and plunder, and mostly just do that for pretty much their whole existence, and not take orders from no one. You know, the life of sea pirates is what they want. Cool. What do the Lannisters want? Well, what do the Lannisters always want? More gold, more power, baby. The Lannisters want power, and they want all of it. All of it. And they want their incestuous romances to be left alone. What do the... what's another great... What do the Targaryens want? The Targaryens want revenge, and they want retribution for what was stolen for them. So you see what I'm getting at here. There is a sense of what every house wants. There is a sense of what... And by the way, that's what creates the tension, because all these goals are at cross purposes. All these goals are in competition with one another. The Starks just want to be left alone, but the Lannisters have just roughly married into their family's alliance and have now obligated them to involve themselves in court politics, right? So this is brilliant. And this is what makes Game of Thrones such a pleasure to watch, because the Night's Watch just wants to do their duty and protect the realm. They don't even want to be part of politics, and yet they are. The Witcher has none of this. The Witcher has none of this nuance. The elves, they want their freedom, but they're just this amorphous mass. They have no... They remind me of the Mandalorians, frankly, the elves. They're just that's the way... You know, it's like, but there's no sense of what their actual culture is. There's no sense of what their history is. They're just people with ears, you know, saying lines about the things they want. I get no sense of what the kingdoms in this country want. I get no sense of, like, you know, what is the threat? Who is the villain? Like, what is the danger in this world? Yes, there's monsters, but so what? Kill another monster. Who cares? And I think, you know, so if I were to look at this, it's like, if The Witcher, and I haven't read the books, but if I were to look at, like, what is The Witcher really a story about? I mean, is it a story about a lone ranger going from town to town? Is he kind of a pale rider sort of character? Well, then make him that. That's what he should be. And his threats, then, should be a kind of serialized adventure story of ever more dangerous opponents. Do you know, actually, a Japanese manga that does this very well, by the way? Berserk. Berserk does this very well. You know, Guts, the Black Swordsman, is, you know, he's very much like the Witcher kind of, I would assume, kind of character. He roams from place to place, killing demons, and there is an overarching revenge story between him and his rival Griffith, who is a god, a literal god that he has to do battle with as a mortal, which is freaking great. It's got the mythical Greek myth element to it. It's fantastic. And each threat that he faces is a little bit different and has a different kind of reason why he's got to beat it. And along the way, he finds other characters. So yeah, so The Witcher has none of that. It doesn't have any clue what kind of story it is. Starfury says, series importance is all connected to the Wild Hunt. Okay. So, you know, I guess to accurately diagnose what is wrong with this series, I would probably have to read the books or play the games, of which I have done neither, I regret to say. Oliver says, it's one of those shows that appeals to those who never played the games or read the books. Henry Cavill knows the stories. I wonder if he had complete control, how different it would be. Well, my camera's lagging. I need to close some tabs here. I've never read the books. I've never played. I tried to play the games. I just, you know, it was one of those things where it just never caught on with me because it's just time and it just never stuck. I'm one of those guys. I like RPGs where you get to design your character. That's kind of my favorite. Like, I like being able to design my shepherd, get my shepherd just the way I like him or her. Sorry, I'm looking for my tabs here. Anyway, so I never read the books, and I don't like this show at all. Like, I didn't like it in the first episode. It just bored me to tears. So what can you say? I don't know if that's exactly what's wrong with it. All right. Well, anything else in the captain's stack of stuff? I do have this headline. Oops, I hit the wrong tab there. Yeah, you've done it again, Mr. Magoo. Try this headline from Bounding Into Comics. After Indiana Jones craters at the box office, actress Hayley Atwell says Mission Impossible is the most extraordinary action-adventure franchise you've ever seen. I cannot wait for this movie. I just think it's going to crush it. Shortly after Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny cratered at the box office with an abysmal $60 million opening weekend, Paramount Pictures released a new clip showcasing the film's epic train sequence that sees actress Hayley Atwell describe the Mission Impossible franchise as the most extraordinary adventure franchise you've ever seen. Dude, what is he doing in this motorcycle stunt? I mean, he's jumping off the cliff into nowhere, so I am deeply excited to see what the point of that is. And, I am confident there will be a point. The new Mission Impossible... Well, I'm not going to read all that preamble. We wanted to build upon the previous films and apply all of that knowledge to something practical and real and bring this train sequence to another level. I assume that is director Christopher McQuarrie. It's just going to be amazing. Look at, what a babe. Hayley Atwell. She is not looking at all like Captain Carter. She's looking, I don't know, she's just looking much more like a babe in this one. I think Disney is in for yet more humiliation very soon. This is what you can accomplish with a work ethic. This is what you can accomplish when you earn your success in every film. Last headline for you. And this one, I shouldn't end on a sad note. I should not end on a sad note, but this from CBR.com, Charlie Cox, oh no, pleaded with Marvel to bring the Daredevil stuntman back for Born Again. And Disney refuses to bring Daredevil stuntman back for Daredevil Born Again, despite Charlie Cox's impassioned pleas. Well, I am sorry, sir. You got stookered, my friend. You are so in for watching your character get bitchified. I mean, they are going to give him... If you think that Nick Fury got the Jake Skywalker treatment, I just think Daredevil is in for absolute bitchification. Daredevil stuntman Chris Brewster reveals that despite Charlie Cox's pleas, Disney Plus won't bring him back on board for Daredevil Born Again. I mean, they probably can't afford him, if we're being totally honest. The Ikuzo Unscripted podcast recently sat down with Brewster, the longtime stuntman for Cox on Netflix's Daredevil, where he revealed that despite the actor's best efforts, Disney would not hire Brewster for the revamped Disney Plus show. According to Brewster, Charlie Cox asked them over and over to bring him back, but he never even got a phone call. Considering that Cox specifically requests Brewster on everything, his absence from the Disney Plus show may be indicative of the studio's desire to separate their Daredevil show from the 3-season-long stint that character had on Netflix. Oh, you think? Let me tell you something about that show on Netflix. It was freaking incredible. If I was blue-pilled for any period of time, it was because of shows like that. I mean, it was excellent. And you know what was so great about it? Every single part of his story was scaled perfectly. His father was a boxer. It connected. It made sense. They leaned into that in all the right ways. His powers were just perfectly scaled for his ability and what he's doing. He's saving Hell's Kitchen. The Kingpin in that is a nuanced, fascinating character. He's bloody. He's bloodthirsty. He's ruthless. And Matt Murdock in that show is a stone cold hero. he's got like, he actually had a hero's ideals and morals in that show, which is another great, and he's a Catholic. Can you believe that? They actually, I feel like, honored his Catholic backstory. So Disney writers are not freaking capable of writing a character like that anymore. So it is incredible to me. They are strangling the golden goose everywhere they can find it. They imagine the hubris of saying that show was loved by fans. It had some of the best stunt action I've ever seen. That long shot in the hallway to this day in the first season is one of the most incredible action scenes I've ever seen. It's like there is no CGI in that hallway that I could detect. And I would take that scene 10 times over the most bloated CGI mess of the first 20 minutes of Dial of Destiny, where he's running around with a de-aged face on trains that aren't really there, fake as hell. It's like, look at what they can do with a few stunts and a hallway. It's like the Joker. Look what I did to this city with some matches and a couple of drums of gas. Everything burns. It's my attempt at a Heath Ledger Joker. But, that's my thing. It's like, they did a lot with a little with that show. And now Disney is going to do nothing with a lot. Well, my dear sailors and starnauts, I do hope you enjoyed this Captain's Cast on a Thursday. The Thursday Captain's Cast is back. I will do my very best to come to you every Thursday and Sunday and to provide a little entertainment. And I will have on my next stream, which will be this Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be reviewing The Sound of Freedom for you. I have my tickets, and I will also be continuing to review. I promise you, I'm looking for good things for you. I'm digging into some more Stargate SG-1, so I'm hoping to have some good stuff for you on the next. I don't want everything to be doom and gloom. Although, Disney is taking a pounding. Just the way they like it. It's not going well for them. So that is good news. So I hope that made you feel better. So yes, Oliver, see you on the next one. Tom, adieu. Please do hit like and subscribe. I'm also working on sharing out more videos to and also the Captain is now, I know I'm doing what you should never do, 1,000 different things, but I'm actually now posting my videos on Twitter as well. So we'll see if we can build Swords and Starships on Twitter. I will add that to the description. It's at SNS Channel on Twitter, I believe, because I couldn't get Swords and Starships as my tag. So it's at SNS. I'll put it in the description and link. Anyway, I'm sure you're just dying to run right over there. But, all right. Well, thank you, my dear sailors and starnuts, for hanging out. The Captain must depart. Salute you, my dear crew. We here at the Swords and Starships channel will never relent. We will never surrender. We will defend our island of nerd culture against all the terrible woke apparatus and its war machine. We will prevail. We will fight them on the beaches. We will fight them in the fields. I'm totally mangling that speech by Sir Winston, but you get what I'm saying. So, until next time, my dear sailors and starnuts, this is your captain saying I will see you out there.